Ever thought about what it would be like if your farewell to the world came with guitar solos and applause? Some artists don't just fade away quietly. They go out with a song, literally. And today, we're diving into the stories of artists who said goodbye in the only way they knew how, through music. Before we jump in, hit that subscribe button real quick. Around here, we talk about music the way it deserves to be talked about, with love, curiosity, and just the right amount of drama. All right, let's get into it. July 2025, Birmingham, England, the birthplace of heavy metal, and the setting for one final, unforgettable moment. Ozzy Osbourne, at 76 years old, is helped onto the stage. He sits on a literal throne, not for flair, but because his health just couldn't keep him standing anymore. But his voice still had fight. The event was called Back to the Beginning, a full-on celebration. Black Sabbath reunited, Metallica, Guns N' Roses. It was less of a concert and more of a rock and roll homecoming. And Ozzy? He sat there, fragile but fierce, giving the performance everything he had left. 17 days later, he passed away, but not before one last roar from the throne. If you're gonna go, go loud. Now let's rewind to January 2016. David Bowie was quietly battling cancer. Almost nobody knew. And then, on his 69th birthday, he released Blackstar. 2 days later, the world found out he had passed. Suddenly, the album made way more sense. In Lazarus, he sings, "Look up here, I'm in heaven. I've got scars that can't be seen." I mean, come on. That's not subtle. The whole album, the lyrics, the music videos, the cover art, was like a beautiful mystery he left behind. His producer, Tony Visconti, called it a parting gift. And he was right. Leave it to Bowie to turn death into performance art. If this story's already giving you chills or a little lump in your throat, give it a like. It helps more people find these stories. And hey, it's cheaper than therapy. Now let's talk about someone who turned stubbornness into an art form. Johnny Cash. In 1997, he was diagnosed with a neurodegenerative disease, originally misdiagnosed as Parkinson's. Most people would slow down. Cash did the opposite. He teamed up with producer Rick Rubin and started recording like time was chasing him. Because, well, it kinda was. His cover of Hurt by 9 Inch Nails somehow became his song. That voice, those images, that rawness, it wasn't a cover. It was a confession. The music video showed an aging Cash surrounded by memories and decay. And still, that voice cut through it all like a knife. In 2003, his wife June Carter Cash passed away. It broke him. But he said to Rubin, "You've got to keep me working. I'll die if I stop." And so he did. In the last 4 months of his life, Johnny recorded over 60 songs. Even did surprise shows in Virginia. He couldn't walk. He was in a wheelchair. But the man kept singing. His last recordings were on August 21st. He passed away on September 12th. And he was buried next to June. The last thing he left us? His voice, his heart, and his truth. See, these aren't just stories about dying. They're about living until the very end, with purpose. For Ozzy, Bowie, and Cash, music wasn't just a career. It was the last thing that still worked when everything else started to break down. Their bodies said no. But their hearts? Their music? Still screaming yes. They didn't want silence. So they turned their final moments into one last song. And honestly, that's kind of beautiful. So yeah, these stories are emotional, but they're also kind of comforting, right? Because they remind us that even when everything else fades, the music can stay. The message, the voice, the feeling, it lives on. And sometimes that's all we need. So now I want to hear from you. Which of these stories hit you the hardest? Or do you know another artist who said goodbye through their music? Drop a comment below, let's talk. Because sometimes the best conversations start with a good song. See you in the next one. And until then, keep listening.